Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, the students were online. Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, inshallah, we are going to continue this unit number 9, managing complexity through modularity. Today, inshallah, we are going to learn about creating new objects. That is called the user-defined objects. Okay. In the last class, we have seen that we create the objects of date class, right? The date objects, and we use different functions with the date objects to set the month, set year, or display the year. Yeah, set full year. These are different functions or different behaviors with the object. So today, inshallah, we'll see how the user can create its own objects, its own object type. And we are going to also take the different ways in which objects and primitive types are stored in memory. For example, you create a variable x is equal to 10. This is a primitive type, number type. How this is stored in the memory inside a computer. And when you create an object, for example, you create a date object. Today is equal to new date. That how that object is stored in the memory. There are two different methods, two different ways to store these values in the memory. So we will see that how these values are stored. We are going to start with a step-by-step, like how to create an object, a user-defined object. An object is created by using object creation operator called new, as you can see here. And you have used that in the creating a date object. For example, this one, where today is equal to new date. So this new operator is used to create an object of date class. Here you see you have a date. So today is an object of date, of type date. Using this new operator, we are going to create an object. So when we create our own object types, we are going to use this new operator again to create an object. Fine. So it is followed by a constructor function. Constructor function is a function which will construct or initialize the values of the object. For example, here in this case, you have created an object of date. Like you have created an object, for example, where today is equal to new date. So this date is a constructor. This is a constructor function which will set the initial values for today object. So what is the initial value for today object? Today will have what? It will have year, it will have month, and it will have day. So it will set the initial values. For example, in this case, what it will set? Year 2017, month 4 or 3, and then day 24. So day it will set as 24. So now here in this case, the initial values will be set through this constructor. Or for example, you want to create your own date, for example, birthday. So how do you set the initial value for your birthday, or the values for your birthday? For example, let's say where b day is equal to new date of 19. What is your birthday? 1992 3/20. This is your birthday. Okay. So in this case, you are setting the initial value, and these initial value are set for this b day object by using this function called constructor. So constructor here is a function which is used to initialize the newly created object into a particular kind of object type, and hence associate the object with properties and methods. Properties, it means their values. Like for example, in case of date, the properties are year, month, day, hour, minutes, seconds. These are different properties. Methods, so object properties is, as I told, it's day, month, year. These are object properties. Methods are those which acts on these properties or which take some action on these properties. For example, set functions, set month, set full year, or set day, these things. Okay, so here these are the methods. For example, here where today new date will create a today a date object for the current date. So here the date, which is it's a constructor function. Also, when you create an array, we call array of 12. So array is a constructor function to create an array elements. Like this, for example, we can create our own constructor functions. Okay, so JavaScript enables you to define and create your own object type by defining a constructor function. As example, we are going to create a new object type called student, which has two variables, that is two properties, name and course code. Name of the student and the course code of the student. So this figure shows two students, student A and student B, and their properties, name and course code, as you can see on the figure. So both student A and B are the instances or the objects of student type. So how to create that is that you write a function, constructor function student, with two arguments, one for name and one for the course code, and set that name for the name property and course code for the course code property by using this. Now what is this here? This keyword called this refers to the object which is newly created. The object which newly created. For example, let's say that you are creating a student object, student A and student B, for example. So I say that where student A is equal to new student of XYZ, the name and the course code ABC, or let's say the course code C1. Okay, when this is created, what happens? It will call this function. Yeah, it is similar to the keyboard where it will call this function. I'm sorry, do you mean this object? No, this is not similar to where. This is not where. Where is to create your objects. No, this is not where. This refers to, when it says this dot name, it refers to the currently created object, this one. This refers to the new object which is being created, So this call, this function student, it will pass the name XYZ, course code course C1, and that XYZ is given to the name, and this refer to the new object what you are creating, student A. So student A dot name, it is something like student A dot name is equal to the name what you give, ABC, and this is again that is student A. Student A dot course code is equal to C1. Okay, so in this fashion these constructors are invoked. So here this is a reserved word which is referring to the newly created object which is created by the operator new, and here these two, A name and A course, are the arguments for this constructor, student constructor. So when we create an object of this student type, we create it in the same fashion as we create for the day. So we will pass two arguments here, where student A is equal to new student of Joe, M150. So it will call that student function, and it will set the name and the course code to Joe and M150. This is, yeah, this where student A is a object, is a variable. It's like a variable called object. The new operator is going to create this, make it as a new object, okay, and this constructor is called with these values. So when these values are passed, sorry,
connection with the function.
yeah, connecting with the function. So when these values are invoked, it will call this function with these two values, Joe and M150, and it will set that Joe to the name and M150 to the course code for the student A. Okay. Now if I create another object, like for example student B, this is all that explanation what I explained to you just now. Okay. Now if I create another object like where student B is equal to new student of, let's say that Muhammad and course C2. So this will again, this is a new object created, okay, and this will call that function, the student function, by passing the values, two values, the name and the course code, and that will set for student B. Now we can access that student A and B with the help of dot notation, with the help of using a dot between the object name and the property name, between the object name and the property name. Student B dot name, student B dot course code, or student A dot name, student, sorry, yeah, there's no this. This is just to set that, to mention that it is a newly object created. These values are for that. Now here, if you want, now the student object has been created, assign the value. If you want to access that properties, you can access by using this dot notation. So for example, you want to access the name and the course code of this one, you can access of the student A, for example, you can access as student A dot name. This will give you the name of the student A, and student A dot course code will give you the name, the course code of the student A. Now you can create this one, for example, let us try this one over here with some there is no notepad plus plus, by the way I'll write it here with the notepad. Script type equals or language. If it is understood by the browser, it is not important. If it is not understood by the browser, then you have to mention that what script you are writing. So we'll write a function student of a name and a course code. I'll mention it as AC code, okay, and we'll say this dot name equals a name, and this dot course code is equal to AC code. So this is a function, okay. This is done. This is a function. Fine. Now if you want to create the object of this function where student A, for example, is equal to new student of whatever the name you want to pass, for example Muhammad, comma, course code M150B. Fine. So this will create these two. We want to print these properties of this one. You can print directly as document.write of let's say I'll make it as student, just an information, student name, What we use, plus or what? Plus student A dot name. Okay. Now let us just it will print just the name. Yeah. Body. And then close this body. Close the HTML tag. This is without header. Objects.html. Now let us execute that function objects.html. Yeah, this one. So what you got? The student name Muhammad. So how it is done? It's very clear that this will create an object, and for the student A it will set the name and the course code. Let us see that I'll create another object where student B is equal to new student of the name, for example Abdullah, and the course code, for example M150A. Fine. So this student B has its own property, its own value, the name and the course code. Okay. So if you want to print the student B name, you can print that also with the same fashion, but if the object is student B dot name. Yes. So I got the student name Muhammad and the student name. Mumkin. You can also print the course code in the same fashion. For example, student A, you want to print the course code. So what do you have here? Course code. Course code. This name and this course code. This you have to print, not this one, not this one. These are arguments. Okay, this you have to print. Let us put a break row over here. BR and a BR over here. So student name Muhammad. So we just let's so you can print all the properties, whatever the properties you have, you can take that by using the dot, So this shows that how you can access those properties of the object by using the dot operator. Okay, by using the dot. You can also change their name in the same fashion. When you access, you can also modify it. You can also change it. For example, here you print the student name and the course code. And after this you want to change the name again and then print it again. So for example, I say student A dot name, so that you want to change the new name to the new name. Okay, so for example Ali. Okay, and I'll print that name after we change. No, initially it is Muhammad, then we change it, then it will print Ali. Yes. See, the name is changed now. So you can set the name by using the same dot operator. By using the same dot operator in the same fashion as you access the name. So here is an example, an activity to create this one. Function student with a name and a course, and set that name and the course code, and create some objects here. Some student is equal to new of Lindsay and M150, and write the name, write the course code, change the name to Sarah and 256, and write the name and the course code. The same activity what we did now. Okay, so So it's better you try these activities. It's a practice for you, because you have this type of questions, in the exam, in the final exam. You're going to have face this kind of exam. A complete question on program to create the object, assign the properties, and create to create some methods for the object and all. Okay. Okay.
Student A. Student A.
This dot name.
Document right. Student name. The first one. Student A. Deleted and changed this
to this dot name. No, this will not work. This will not work. Why we use this here? Say this. This means here. Yeah, inside the function. This means it refers to the object which is created now. So for example, we are creating here where student A is equal to new student of Muhammad 150B. So what it will do when you call this function student. So when you are creating this object, so it will go here and this will refer to this student A. So it is like a student A dot name is equal to the name, student A dot course code is equal to the course code. The same is if you use here. I don't think so this will work, but this will not work because this is not the place for this here. Okay. See? Inside the function. Okay. Fine. If you want to add more attributes, you can add it over here. For example, we are adding an ID number here. So you can add this dot student ID number, and when you create the object, you assign the ID number also. Fine. The next is adding behavior to the objects. Behavior is nothing but adding methods, that what changes we can do in that object. For example, in the date object, you have some behaviors in here. You have some methods like set year or set full year, set month, set day. Okay, set. So these setter methods are called the behaviors to the objects. Fine. So like this, we can create the behaviors to the objects. We can have our own behaviors, our own functions or methods to the objects. Let's say, for example, we'll take this. We'll now give the student object an additional property called TMA scores. Let's say the student has some 4 TMAs. So every TMA has a score. So that will be stored, will be referenced in an array which will hold scores for the student TMA, for each TMA of the student. So as the number of TMA a student must complete depend on the course, we need to give the constructor function an extra argument called number of TMAs, which will enable appropriately the size of the arrays to be created inside the constructor function. So now we are going to add this student object as this dot TMA score is equal to new array of number of TMAs. That should be passed as an argument now. Okay, so it is called now array of number of TMAs. So this TMA score is an array which will holding some TMA scores. For example, 4 TMAs. So that you will pass here as number of TMAs 4. So you create an array of 4. An array is created with the 4 values. Now that we have defined this new property called TMA scores for the function. Now in JavaScript method a method is a function associated with a given object via the statement. Alaikum salam.
يا أستاذ محمد سليمان أستأذنك قليلا.
تفضل.
استلام هذه الإلزام عليكم السلام. This from Sudan. هذا اوكي خلاص أنا كان في موضوع في المكتب بتاع المدير فوجدتها. كيف يا حبيبنا؟ إن شاء الله مو صار ولا زمان. ترجع النشاط شوي. مو بالمناسبة من الكوز. يلا حازم.
هذول درجات الحال؟
ايوه ده اوراق من حاله احسن.
يعني جاهزين ولا لسه؟ خالص لا خالص بس بعتونا الكورس كوردينيتور يتنسى.
لا مو كورس كوردينيتور عشان مدرس الماده.
يعني زيتون اليوم تجي خالص. صح اخذ درجات بس باقي يومين ثلاثه تقريبا.
لا لسه ما تسعى اشوف هذا موجود. Okay, so here we are going to add this TMA score method as a behavior. So that is a function in JavaScript. Okay, so a function is defined in an usual way. It's how we write the function. We write the same function by using the keyword function, the name of the function. So here we are going to add, we will demonstrate the two-stage process that works by adding the method TMA scores to the student object. And we will call this update TMA results, another method to update the TMA for every student, update the TMA scores for every student. So this update TMA will take the TMA number, whether it is the first TMA or the second TMA, third TMA, and it will take its score and update it. Okay, first TMA, second TMA. So what could be the code here? Update TMA, the TMA number and the score. So for example, first TMA, that will be stored in the array TMA scores, because the array what we have in our, it is TMA scores, which is an array. One array, not two arrays.
Number of scores.
Number of TMAs is one argument to the object.
Yes.
Okay, when you create the object, number of TMAs. For example, 4 TMAs, 6 TMAs, number of TMAs you have. The next here is the update the TMA results. It will take the TMA number. For example, first TMA, how much score? Second TMA, how much score? So it will take two arguments, TMA number and the score. What is its score? So how to update is that we call that array, we'll take the TMA number -1 is equal to score. Why we need here -1? It is an array. This is an array, TMA scores is an array. Yeah, it is zero based, because it is zero based. So for example, I enter, because the array starts from 0, so we need to do it -1. For example, that TMA scores is an array. So I am entering the TMA number, for example, first TMA, and the score is 85. So first TMA is stored at 0 position, 0 index. So TMA number -1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So TMA score of 0 is equal to 85. That's why we need to do that -1 in our function update TMA results. The first TMA, where it is stored? In the 0 index, right? So first TMA number 1, it should be 1 minus 1 to take to 0. If it is 2, TMA number 2, 2 minus 1 will take to 1. If it is third TMA, 3 minus 1, that's differently. Okay, so in the update TMA, we are going to update that array. We store the value in the array. Okay, TMA number 1 and TMA number 2. So now we must associate this function update TMA, okay, with the method update TMA scores for the student object. So how do we associate that? We are going to associate in this fashion, that this dot update TMA scores is equal to update TMA results. Update TMA scores is the name of the behavior for the student object, which will call this update TMA results, okay, this method update TMA results to update the TMA, to add the TMA results or to modify the TMA results. Okay. Now in this fashion, for example, we create an object called where clever student. We create an object called where clever student is equal to new student of GIL M150, the ID number, the number of TMA is 4. The number of TMAs is equal to 4. So how it will be now? It will pass this name, course code, ID number and 4. And when it is set the initial values, the name will be set here, GIL, the course code M150, the ID number, whatever. The TMA scores is equal to new array of 4. So 4 TMAs array is created. TMA score array is created with the 4 values. Okay. Now how to update? We have an update TMA score behavior here, which will call the function update TMA. And this function takes 2 arguments. Number 1, the first argument, the TMA number, first TMA or second TMA. The number 2, it will take the score. What is the score? Okay. So when we create this object, clever student, now clever student object has these properties: the name, the ID number, the course code, and the TMA scores array, and the update TMA behavior, update TMA result. So when we call update TMA result, clever student dot update TMA result with 2 arguments, the TMA number and the course. Update TMA scores. It will call this update TMA scores, which has update TMA results, which will call this update TMA result with 1 and 85 and set the TMA scores of 1 minus 1 0 is equal to 85. Like this, if you want to set the other second one, third one, you can pass it by 2, 3, 4.
And 1 minus 1?
1 minus 1, 0, the first value in the array. Then 2 minus 1, 1, the second value in the array. 3 minus 1, 2, third value in the array. 4 minus 1, 3, fourth value in the array.
This is 1 before the minus.
Yes, this one is before the minus. Minus will be done inside the function, inside the behavior. Okay. So it will be in this fashion. The object, the student object type will be this fashion, and the behavior function or the method will be in this fashion. Fine. So it will be something like this. If you want to do it over here, I'll just take out this printing and all. Okay. And I'll add here. I'll skip the ID number. Yeah. I'll just put a number of TMAs. Okay. So here we create a variable. This dot TMA score. TMA scores is equal to new array of number of TMA, which is this one. This is number of TMA. So you are creating this one. Okay. Then we talk about creating the function, that is update the TMA score. So I'll say this dot update TMA scores is equal to update TMA results. Fine. So now we got to write this method update TMA results. We write this function update TMA results of, it will take the TMA number comma score. It will take the score. So you are going to set that TMA scores, which is this one. TMA scores of the TMA number minus 1 is equal to score. You are setting the score to the TMA. This is done. Now when you create the object where, for example, student A is equal to new student of, you are going to pass the name, for example, Ali M150, then number of TMAs, 2 TMAs. Okay, so this is created now. Now I want to add the number of TMAs is 2. Yeah, this will create an array TMA scores with 2 values, 0 and 1. The index 0 and 1. So whenever we want to assign that value, we call that by using the student A dot update TMA results of, you have to pass the TMA number 1, the first TMA, comma 85. This is to call the first, to set the first TMA. Yeah, you can put, no, you cannot put, there are 2 TMAs. When there are 2 TMAs, you put 1 and 2. That's it. The TMA number. No. TMA 2, 4. How it will change? If you call this 1, you are calling this TMA number 1. If you set, for example, 4, 4,85. 4 minus 1 is 3. There is no index 3 there in the array. The array has 2 indexes, 0 and 1. So you have to set the TMA 1 and TMA 2. Yeah, we can put 1 and 2, not more than 2.
If it's 3,
yeah, if the number of TMAs are 3, then you can put 1, 2, 3. If the number of TMAs are 4, you can put 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah. So this way it will set the TMA result for TMA 1. Okay. Now this is creating 2 students, student 1 and student 2, with 4 TMAs, with the name, the course code, ID number and 4 TMAs, and updating their TMA scores. Or in our case, what it is? Update TMA results. Sorry, it should be update TMA scores, not results. So you have to call with this behavior name. This will call this function. Yeah. So you have to call with that behavior name. So TMA scores is the behavior. This will call function with this one to set its values. Okay. Now if you want to print those, you can print it as TMA scores dot toString. TMA scores is an array. Okay. ToString, what it will do, this ToString function will print that array as a string, as one complete line. We can try this over here. Document dot write, for example, I'll put it a break row. The TMA scores are I'll put a break row. Let's see. And I'll put the student A. You want to take the TMA score of student A. Student A dot, what is the name of the array? TMA scores. TMA scores dot toString. ToString will just print that in a string format. And I print that array elements. No, yeah, it is a reserve word of the JavaScript. No, I did not print it. Student A, TMA scores dot toString. Is there any mistake over here? Even there is a spelling mistake, it will not come. Update TMA results. Sorry? Control C and Control paste for all. Let us see if even if it's sorry.
You can check it all of this.
Yeah, we can check it. Student 1 to team scores are testing. There is no spelling mistakes, right?
No spelling mistake.
There is no spelling mistakes. Let's put a document.write here. Document.write of hello. Just to check whether it is working till here or not. No, it's not coming here. So it means there's a problem before it. Yeah, I'll put it here and see.
Of course. With the nothing. Of course.
Yeah, and it's up to here, it's okay. And next line. Yeah, it's okay over here. Even there is a problem, it means while calling this function, update TMA scores. Let us comment this one. TMA scores are nothing, so it is not displaying anything. So we have a problem in calling this one, student A dot update TMA scores of 1, 87. Sorry? Yes. No, TMA scores it is. So this one, the behavior name, we'll call it by behavior name.
Yes.
TMA update TMA scores, which will call update TMA results. Yeah, which will call here. Okay. So we got to call that update TMA scores with the TMA number. Fine. Let us see now. It's coming or not. No, it's not coming. TMA number. This might be a problem in this function. TMA scores of TMA number 1. Or it should be with this keyword. Yeah. This dot TMA scores.
This on the function.
Yeah. So you got that, huh? So what we missed?
This.
We missed this keyword here. Okay. This represents this invoking object, that is student A. So it is like student A dot TMA scores of TMA number 1 minus 1. So it will set the
function.
Yeah, because it's set inside the function. Yeah. So we have to take care of that one. Student A dot update TMA scores of 2, 65. So you got that TMA scores 85 and 65. So that two string method is just going to print that array. One after that is separated by a comma. Okay, this two string. Two string, you just print the array. Two string will print whatever the object you have in a string format as an array separated by comma. So you can see in the output it is 85, 65 and there is a separation by comma.
So to see the code.
What's happening without two string?
It will not print. It's not an array. So it's an array, so it will not print. It's not a value, I mean variable.
You will just take the code.
Yes.
Score.
Or you put it in a loop to print the array elements. Fine. So this is if you run this code, you will have the output over here. The TMS scores, the course name, the code, student ID, and the TMS scores as per this code. Okay, you will have the output here. We can also write the functions like this. How we add this function called the update TMS scores, we update TMA results. Like this, we can add the behaviors, any number of behaviors we want. We can add any number. This is just to update the TMA result. For example, you want to add a behavior to display the student information, like display student, to display the name, ID, and the code and the TMS scores. Okay, you want to write a separate function or a separate behavior for that. We can add that also by the name of display, for example. So we'll make the same fashion. This dot display is equal to display student. Display student is now a function. Display student in which you display the name, this dot name, course, this dot course, student ID, this dot student ID, TMS scores, this dot TMS scores dot district. Now here this is one function. You call by any function object name, it will display that object information. It will display that object information. So for example, we'll add it here. A function called display info. It will not take any argument because it's just a display. So we are not going to give any argument to this. And then we will display that here by using document.write of, for example, name plus this Chabi
फिर इधर जाएगा ना उधर जाएगा
इधर दे दो मेरे को
कितना दिन बाद बनाना चाहिए अभी चलो.
So this dot name to display the name. Fine. Then in the same fashion, document.write. For example, course code. What do you have? Course code. Course code. This dot course code. These are same as these variables. Okay, let me put a BR here just to break the row, and then TMA scores you want to put. So again the same fashion, document.write TMA scores as this dot the name of the variable TMA scores dot to string. Okay, now you add this behavior to the function here, that this dot display is equal to display info without brackets. See here, this comes without brackets. Okay, so behavior is added. Now you have a student A, for example, you want to display the information of the student A. So you will say that student A, the object name is student A dot display. Not display info, just to display. The name of the behavior inside the object type. This will call the display info. Okay. So in this fashion, it should display as all the information. Course code. Name, course code, and the TMA scores. Forgot to put a break row here. You got how to add the behaviors and the function. So in this fashion, you add different behaviors, different functions to the objects. Okay? Yeah. By the same method, the same way you can add. You can also add, for example, display TMA average, which will calculate the average of the total TMA for the student and display the average. Yeah, or returns the average. Yeah, display it. It is the same format. Same format, go on adding the behaviors. The same format, go on adding the behavior. See, this is creating an object and adding the behaviors, adding the methods. You have the same concept in M105 and M257, it's a Java course. M105 is okay, it's a startup course, but in M257 you have this. Okay, so the same type of things it is there also. So it is good to you that you learn it here. Yeah, you can use the same concept in M105 and M257 or any other programming language. There is a constructors and objects, the same fashion it will follow.
Is there a function inside the Java?
Yes,
Java course?
there are functions. Okay. So here, so we have the display TMA average. You can add the display TMA average as display average score. Display average score is here. You calculate the average, okay, by using the for loop. You take the TMA scores and add it to the total. The total divided by the length will give you the average. Display the average. For loop is go through the arrays. How do you calculate the average? You add all these array elements, right? So to go through the array, we have to take the for loop. Starting I, the index from 0, less than index less than the length of the array. TMS scores dot length, index is equal to index plus 1. Or you can say I is equal to 0, I less than the TMS score dot length, I plus plus. Yeah. Then you make the total and then you divide the total by length, you get the average. So to call that average, again you call the TMA average, which is this one. This will call display average over here and print the average. Fine. So this is how you create your own object type, how to add the properties to the object, how to add the behaviors to the object. One question on this type of programming you will have in your final exam. One question on this. Okay. In the same fashion, that they'll give you a question. For example, like we took an example of a student. They can give you an example of employee. An employee has some properties, some behaviors. Yeah. A display will just display the information of this student. But inside the function. Object, display the object values. The next thing we'll see here is that how the objects are stored in the memory. We know that the primitive types are stored in the memory in a particular location. Their values are stored. For example, whenever I create a variable, for example, let's say var x is equal to 20. How this is stored in the memory? Let's say this is the memory. We talk about that memory is like pigeonholes, or it will be in partitions. So let's say it has some address. Memory has address, for example, 2021, 2022, like this. Addresses, memory addresses, these are called. For example, we say x is equal to 20. Let's say 20 is stored here. The name given here is x. When you say document.write x, it will take that value 20 and print. If I say, for example, var y is equal to x, what happens here? A y is given a memory, the x value 20 is copied here. If I change x is equal to 10, it will change this to 10, but y remains 20 here. Okay? Stay 20. Because it is in different location. It is a different. It becomes a different value, different location. So it will not affect the y value. They are print.
Change just direct, not
just that value. Yeah. So it will change only the x value. It will not change the y value. Okay. This type of primitive types, the storage, we call it as in value semantics. Value semantics. So in case of primitive types, the memory locations holds the data value. The memory locations, these are the memory locations. It will hold the data value to which the name is given, that is a variable name, and this is known as value semantics. This is in case of primitive data types like numbers and characters and the strings. With the help of you use var x is equal to 10, var x is equal to 10.5. Okay, this is in case of primitive types. Now what in case of objects? What in case of objects? In case of objects, they have the references. They don't hold the value directly for that particular object. Okay, so in case of object, you assign an object to a variable. The variable hold the reference to object rather than object itself. In case, for example, you create var student A is equal to new student of, for example, XYZ, and you give C1 20 or 2, for example. Now here student A variable will not store directly these values. Instead, it will store a reference to these values, that is to XYZ, C and 2, C1 and 2. It will store a reference. Okay, so that's what is given here, that in case of object, you assign an object to a variable. The variable holds the reference. Here the variable, it means the student A. Student A will hold the reference rather than the object itself. The memory location is labeled by a variable which will hold the reference, the first block of the memory where the object is stored, together with the number of blocks adjacent to that memory. Okay. This is because the size of objects are not predictable. It will store what it will store in the memory. This is what the explanation is telling, is that let's say these are the memory locations. Okay, so it has memory location 2021. Let's say this has 202324. Let's say 2024. Now here the student A is an object. It will not store these values directly. It will store a reference where the values are stored and the number of values. How many values you have here? 3. And these 3 values, let's say, is stored here, XYZ, C1, 2. So it's starting from 2024. So it will store here 2024, the reference where the value is stored, and the number of blocks it is used to store the value. So number of blocks is used 1, 2, 3. So it will store 3. So when the object A, student A, wants anything, it will go to this location and take the value from there.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
The 3 after
Either the values here. Okay. So this is because why it is storing that reference along with the other values, because different object has different number of properties or number of attributes. Some will have just 2 attributes, some will have 3 attributes, some will have 4 attributes. Okay, so this is because the size of the object is not predictable, and objects can be of any size. One is a bigger size, one is a, so it cannot be stored directly in the same way as primitive types, and this is known as reference semantics. This method of storing the objects in the memory is called it as a reference semantics. The first method of storing the primitive values is called value semantics, and this is called reference semantics. You may get a question in the exam like differentiate between value semantic and reference semantic with an example, or what is a value semantic and reference semantic with an example. Okay, example is given here. For example, you have a variable where a number is equal to 99. This is a primitive type. It will directly store in the memory number 99 in particular memory block. You have another variable where student A, it is an object, new student of Meena, 245276 ID number, name, course code and ID number. So when you create this one, these values are stored in some memory locations one after the other. For example, 1500, 1501, 1502. The values are stored one after the other. And the starting value, the starting address of the memory where the value, the first value is stored, is given as a reference to the variable student A with the number of blocks in which the the values are stored. The values are stored here in 3 blocks. So it is 1500, 3.
How I know it's a number?
You don't need to know about this.
Address 666.
No, you don't need to know. This is in the memory management inside the computer. You are not, as a programmer, you are not going to do anything. This is a concept to understand what is happening inside.
Best imagine how it will work.
Yeah, how it will work inside. Okay. So this is the difference between the primitive type, how they are stored in the memory, and the reference type, how they are stored in the memory. So here is an example for that. Like for example, we create var a 56. So a is created with the number 56 initially. Then we say b is equal to a. So b will copy the 56 into its value into another location. When you change a, b will not affect. Yeah, just a, because it is a primitive type and it has a copy. Okay. But in case of reference type, reference semantic, it is not true. For example, let's say you have 2 variables, student A and student B. Student A is an object of a student which has these 3 values. So it is created as student A 1500, it is stored here 3 values. Let's say that we say student B is equal to student A. In this case, what happens? It will not copy the values. Rather, it will give you the same reference for student B, 1500, 3. Now, what do you think if I change the name of the student A, it will affect B? For example, I change the name Meena to Muhammad.
So change it to A, just not B.
Are you sure?
Change it to B.
In A and B. It will affect both. It will also change the name. Why? Because see, both A and B are referring to the same values. Any changes here will affect both.
Okay, but I deleted ID number.
If you delete the ID number, for both ID number is deleted.
For both.
For both. If you set ID 0, for both it is 0.
2 to 3 to 2 and A.
Whatever you change, whatever you make the changes in these values, either by using A or by using B, it will affect the both. Why? Because both are referring to the same values. So here student A and B are both are same. Student A and B are same, not 2 different objects. It is both are same objects. Okay. So this is in case of reference object. So this is why, yeah, they have the same references. So this is what the effect of the having the reference. So any changes, for example, student ID, it is changed. Let's say 27634. Now it is changed for student A and B for both. Okay. This is an example for that. Now here is an exercise, a final exercise for today. Where W is equal to 6, X is equal to 7, and Y is an array, and Z is an array. Then we say W is equal to X and Z is equal to Y, and we change Y of 1 is equal to 99.
One array means 5.
Yeah.
One array means 5. Is it?
Look back into the code from the beginning. The first question is, what are the values of W, X, Y, Z after the code is executed? What is the value of W after you execute the code? W is
6.
because you are not making any change in the W remains 6, or it will change to 7. 7. W is equal to,
After all the code has executed.
yes, it is after all the code is executed. What is the value of W? It is 7. Why? Because you are making a change. W is equal to X. What is the value of X? 7. So W becomes 7. Then what is the value of X? X remains 7. Then what is the value of Y? Bill, Jane, or 99? 99 and Alice. Right? Bill, 99. Yes, it is right. So the value of Y is Bill, 99 and Alice. And what is the value of Z? Bill, 99, Alice. Why? Because Z is again assigned to Y, is equal to Y, the same thing we have. Now the first question. So this type of question you will get in the exam.
Why sometimes choose different words? Why sometimes ممكن ناخذ الاري او لا، مرة فقط تغيير او لا، مرة اكس واي، مرة لا غير.
لا X and Y هذا variables. Y Z هذا arrays. شوف الفرق بينهم. X and Y variables مش الارrays، مش they are value semantics. تغيرات في value semantics كل واحد لحال value their own value. Any changes to one value will not affect the other value. هذا في variables. أما في object types, like an array is an object type. Array مش primitive type, they are reference type. So reference type, it means that any changes in one, if another variable is referring to the same, will affect the also. Will affect both of them in reference type. Just reference type. هنا في اثنين reference type. Why was it? Why is it just array?
Is it one you should affect both of them.
أي reference type, arrays, objects, كلها reference type. Where primitive type are different, like var, wx, they are primitive types. Arrays and the student object, what we create a student, date object, they are reference type. Okay. Any reference type, if two variables are referring to the same, okay, well, if one variable changes the value, it will affect the second also. But in primitive type, it will not. Yeah, it like W and X here. They have their own copies. Okay. Now the next question here is, how many number and how many array objects do you think exist after executing the code? Come adadal arrays or come adadal variables, numbers. Number type. Two arrays or one array? Array type. It is one array type. Why? Because Y and Z referring to the same array. So it is one array type, but two values, X and W, they are different. So it has two types, but one array. Okay. So this you have to take care, like, yeah, one array and two numbers. So this you have to take care while you have the question in the final exam. Definitely you have one question on this in the final exam, in the output, that what is the output and number of arrays and number of numbers you have after executing the code.
If Z is not equal to Y, then when there is two arrays.
Yeah, if we don't make this one, Z is equal to Y, if we remove this statement, then it is two different arrays. Z is a different, Y is different, and they have different values. No, two numbers only. W and X, there are only two numbers. Okay.
So you said that's a number and two array.
Yes. Okay. So this is the explanation for that answers. Fine. So this is all what we have for today's meeting. Okay. So today's meeting, what we have saw is an important for you, because you will get one question on this on programming part, creating the object and creating the adding the behaviors and the properties to the object. Fine. And the second part, what we have seen, the primitive types and the reference type, they are also important. You might have some in multiple choice or in essay questions, what is the difference between primitive type and the reference type. Okay, and this one example what we see, you will have one in the output question, fine. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead. For today's topic what we discussed, if you have any questions, please go ahead.